Everyone's like, oh, look, here comes Pensy Joe bringing the Pennsylvania stuff because really test LED in the headlight, but we'll take this quite well by all. Regular combination, she's all that Sheet at 10. Proceed to 15. Hey everybody, this is Pensy Joe back again for another video, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 RTR steam aero railroads that you should model. This does not include any honorable mentions or anything like that. This is just really going to talk about the top 5 railroads that you can currently, model and get a variety of models for that steam aero railroad. This is not include the transition with the diesels or anything like that with the early diesels. It's really just about the steam engines that you can get to model a certain railroad. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting video. It will be rather unsurprising in certain ways and very surprising in other ways of which railroads are in this top 5 list. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, number 5 is the New York Central system. There's not too many variety of steam engine classes in this number 5 spot for the New York Central system. However, there are a lot of variations of the few locomotives in this category for number 5. I believe New York Central is underrated in terms of how many models they should have of different types of locomotives. I feel like they're a little bit underutilized in the steam era, and they deserve more. So, unfortunately, it is what it is for now. But yeah, we'll get through the locomotives that are available right now. There are RTR New York specific locomotives. Okay, first up we have a Broadway Limited Niagara. There's many generations of Niagaras that you can find out there. And the Niagara that this one represents, I believe, is the S1 class Niagara. Here's a rather underappreciated class locomotive that Broadway has made, and that is the L4A class. As you can see here over here, that's a brass hybrid model. You can still find them around, and I recommend picking one of them up if you can. Another model you can get is the Broadway Limited J1D and J1E Hudson. You should get the Paragon 2 versions, in my opinion, or the very late Paragon 1 versions that came out a long time ago. Of course, you can't talk about the New York Central Hudsons without the Dreyfuss Hudson. Broadway has made 2 runs, or 2 or 3 runs of these. They got the Paragon 2, and I think there were 1 or 2 runs of those in Paragon 2. And the recent couple years ago Paragon 4 run of the J3A Streamlined Hudson of the New York Central. Alrighty, we're moving on to MTH, starting with this L3, I believe, some sort of L3 class Mohawk right here from the New York Central. It's another locomotive that you can get. They're a little bit pricey since MTH does not exist anymore, but it's a unique locomotive that you can add to your New York Central lineup. Here's another Hudson variant. This is the New York Central Empire State Builder Hudson. It's another very beautiful Hudson that you can get by MTH, which now is defunct. So good luck trying to get these. These are kind of hard to find now. Hopefully Scale Trains makes them in the future with their acquired tooling from MTH. Okay, and to finally finish off the New York Central, we're going to end with another Hudson variant. This is the J3A Hudson by Bachman. It's a neat locomotive. I heard a lot of people say a lot of positive reviews about it. Is it the most detailed? Probably not, but it's another locomotive out there that you can do for your New York Central Railroad. Okay, so number 4 is going to be the Santa Fe Railroad. I did forget one locomotive to put into this of the locomotives that are made RTR for HO that are steam engines, and that is the 5011 class 210-4. That was made by Bachman. It's pretty much the only one you can get of the 5011 class. That is RTR, unfortunately, but maybe in the future, maybe Broadway or some of the other or scale trains who's got the tooling for Steam will do it. But who knows? Maybe Athearn might do something at some point. I see that there might be a change for the better in the HO market for Steam at some point, but until then, you only got like Bachman 4 to 5011 class. So without further ado, let's look at the ready to roll models that you can get for Santa Fe. Okay, up first we have the 3800 class 210-4. This is a Texas type Santa Fe locomotive that was made by Broadway Limited. And here we have the 3751 class 484. I heard these are going to be discontinued for now. Paragon 3 was the last run that they had them. They had these since QSI all the way through Blue Line, Paragon 2, and finally Paragon 3. You could still find them on the market. A lot of people say that the QSI paint was not correct. However, Blue Line and newer is the correct ATSF black paint scheme. Alrighty, so this is another 3800 class locomotive. This is a 210-2 Santa Fe type locomotive. I believe this is one of the earlier Santa Fe type locomotives. I forgot which run these were in. However, you can still find them out there on eBay and other places, so keep an eye out if you're doing Santa Fe. Alrighty, this is another Santa Fe locomotive. This is a 282 4000 class locomotive. These are rather recent. These are a couple years old now, and you can still find these out there by Broadway Limited. And yeah, they're a little bit high in price. If you can get them for a good bargain, I would recommend trying to get as many of these as you can, since they're usually Mikados are modern workhorses on railroads. This locomotive may not need any introductions. However, for those who do not know what this locomotive is, this is a 464 Hudson type Santa Fe locomotive. This is a 3400 class Blue Goose. Only 6 Hudsons were on the ATSF, but the Blue Goose seems to be rather popular since it's having another run by Broadway Limited. It's a brass hybrid, but it's ready to roll. Get one if you can, if you really like some unique engines on the Santa Fe. It's a colorful engine as well. So I recommend getting one if you model Santa Fe. Really neat. I would upgrade it because I heard there's some problems with pickup issues. But other than that, it's a solid engine from performance wise, mechanically. Finally, we have a really interesting 284 Berkshire locomotive that used to be a Boston and Maine T1 type locomotive. ATSF had a couple of them for a little bit for lease. But yeah, if you do ATSF, or want to do ATSF, this is probably another locomotive you want to pick up to add to your roster for your steam area railroad. Okay, here we are. This railroad does not need any introduction. For the number 3 spot will be the Union Pacific Railroad, for those who do not know. So yeah, of course the Union Pacific is going to be on this list. I'm not going to go through the different companies that make big boys, Challengers, and FEFs in HO scale, especially RTR. So I'm just going to stick with the ones that have, in my opinion, the best detail. But yeah, there's also other engines that are on this list that no other manufacturer makes for our UP locomotives. So this will be interesting. Definitely more than Santa Fe. So without further ado, let's get into the engines. The first engine is obviously going to be the Big Boy. The Big Boy is made by Broadway, Athearn, believe Scale Trains at some point. MTH has made them, and probably a couple others like Riverossi and others that I didn't even mention. So the Big Boy, obviously, there's obviously the big boy that's been made in RTR so many times. Next up is the UP 484s, the FEF2s and FEF3s. Broadway has made these recently, and I heard they're really nice engines. They're all die cast and all stuff. Obviously, Athearn and a couple other companies have made these as well in RTR. So, you know what you'll find out there. There's a whole bunch of them. Here we are with the Broadway Limited UP-MT73. Unfortunately, there was only like I think one or two runs of these. I haven't seen these in Paragon 2, and then this is the third time that Broadway has made a mountain type specific locomotive. Unfortunately, and yeah, I would hope Broadway would make more of these for UP modelers because these are really nice locomotives. So yeah, if you can find one of these, absolutely get one for or two or more for your UP railroad. Another UP locomotive, this time it's a Challenger type locomotive. This is a CSA2 Challenger. This is a brass hybrid by Broadway. You can also get, I think, a plastic body version from Athearn as well. This is less common. Well, this is actually common, especially the brass hybrids by Broadway, but it's a lesser common Challenger out there. A unique Challenger for sure. This is probably like the only other Challenger shape you might see out there. That's RTR. Here's another rare and rather unknown UP locomotive. This is a UPTTT6. This is a 210-2 class locomotive of the UP. Honestly, I think Broadway should make some more. They should make some more UP locomotives, especially this one. It's another 210 2 locomotive that's made by Broadway. I wish they would make a Pensy and 1 class, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting that there's more unique UP models that you will not see out there that are RTR. Coming up the UP popular list, obviously the 9000 class 412-2 locomotive is gonna be on here. Broadway made a brass hybrid, and MTH made a die-cast shell locomotive. I don't know any other RTR company that has made these, so they're out there. There's quite a bunch of them, varying prices. So if you want to get a really large locomotive that's rigid frame and cannot really go on many curves, this is the locomotive for your UP railroad. And finally, we have the UP modernized Challenger, or the modern Challenger. Multiple companies made these. This is a Broadway. There are MTH and Athearn variants out there, and I believe there might be a couple more. So there's never an end to Challengers as well. So yeah, that's the final locomotive for the UP. And yeah, to summarize UP, it's got a decent selection. It's obviously the pretty much the only like RTR like Western railroad that you can get like a variety of, steam engines for the West Coast. So that's unfortunate, but who knows? Time might go on and there might be a change with that. Okay, number 2 spot, C&O. To some people, this might be a surprise. For some people, it might not make sense why it's the second spot. For other people, especially C&O people, would probably expect this. C&O, surprisingly, has like the second most variety of steam engines in the RTR market. Like, you can find on eBay whole different types of C&O engines. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, to start off, we have a Bachman H4/H5 Mallet locomotive. And that's what's interesting about C&O is that there's multiple companies that make C&O models on this list. Up next, we have a C462 482 Mountain. I don't know exactly which class this is supposed to represent. This is a Bachman locomotive. It's supposed to be based off the USRA like heavy Mountain. However, this looks a lot like a C&O Mountain of a specific class. I'm not going to butcher what the name is. So yeah, another Bachman unique locomotive. Bachman used to make a lot of unique engines, especially for C&O back in the old days. Alrighty, here's a recognizable locomotive. This is a C&O 464 Hudson L class locomotive. They come in orange, C&O orange, or later yellow. Obviously, there's one preserved in real life, and these are out there still. I never had one of these, and I never heard too much about them. I heard about smoke units failing, but this is a Paragon 3 era locomotive, so that's probably expected. I'd probably swap out the motor as well just to stay safe so it doesn't burn up the decoder if I want to, or anybody out there wants to decoder swap this engine. Either way, it's another really interesting locomotive that was only in brass before, and this is a brass hybrid locomotive, by the way, that's RTR. Here's a recently made Broadway Limited brass hybrid RTR locomotive. This is a K2 282 class Mikado. There's both tender variants of a four axle truck and a six axle truck, or four axle tender and a six axle tender. Excuse my language right there. Another unique and cool locomotive. It came out in the Paragon 4 run as well as DCC ready. So if you want to get DCC ready and put whatever decoder you can in there, that's something you should probably pick up if you're a C&O modeler. Here's an older brass hybrid BLI engine. This is a J3A 484 Chesapeake and Ohio locomotive. You can still find these out there for a fair value, and personally, I would recommend upgrading the motor to a 5-pole by shipping it out and swapping it at Broadway Limited's service department. And personally, I would put whatever decoder that's better out there inside this engine as well. It's another cool, C&O engine that's out there. Continuing more with Broadway engines, we have a C&O T1. This is a 210-4 Texas type locomotive of the C&O. Again, the C&O has a cool variety of locomotives, and their locomotives are rather different from one to the next. However, the later locomotives tend to be more without the water air pumps at the front of the locomotive. Here we are with another company out there making C&O locomotives. This is a 284 Kanawa. This is a Proto 2000 locomotive right here. Another C&O unique engine. So now we have the reverse of a mountain on one railroad. That's pretty interesting. Kind of rare to see a Berkshire and a mountain class locomotive on the same railroad. And finally, to wrap up the C&O lineup of engines that you can model and use on your RTR Steam Aero Railroad is the MTH, obviously, Allegheny. Now, this locomotive you can also get by Rivarossi. However, you're going to probably have to wait a while since their prices are going up. And the next time they're probably going to come around is when Scale Trains gets around to making them. Anyways, it's still a really cool locomotive, and it's probably the largest you can get for the C&O, for now at least, until Broadway or somebody else decides to make more C&O engines. Alrighty, number one is a no-brainer. It's obviously going to be the Pennsylvania Railroad. To some people, they shake their heads in disgust. To some, they praise it with joy. Yes, the Pennsylvania Railroad by far has the widest variety of steam-type locomotives that are available on the RTR market. Interesting enough, even in the brass market, especially with old brass companies, they are by far one of the most wide variety railroads that have steam engines that are made in HO. So without further ado, let's get through all the locomotives that are made in HO that are RTR for the Pennsylvania Railroad. To start off this list, let's start off with Broadway's only specific consolidation type locomotive, the H10 class. Unfortunately, Broadway did a bastardization version of this locomotive that has the round-topped firebox and made different road names for them. Now, you're probably wondering why I didn't add that bastardization of a consolidation H10 on this list for the other railroads is because it's not a real locomotive. This is not a real locomotive you would see on any railroad in real life, the round top locomotive of the for the firebox. So this is the only time you're going to see a consolidation that's specifically for an RTR steam arrow railroad. Okay, here's the last mountain class locomotive that Broadway has made, and especially in the HO market that I noticed ready to roll that it's in this top 5. It is the Pennsylvania Railroad M1 Atterbury Zone class locomotive. Both M1A and M1B variants have been made by Broadway, and they have been around since Paragon 3. They started from Paragon 1, Blue Line, Paragon 2, and Paragon 3, and have not, unfortunately, been seen since, but hopefully the M1 will come back again, because guess what? The M1 is a really nice locomotive, handles well, and for the tooling, it's alright. It does the job for RTR. Next up is the Streamline K4 from 1938. This engine is an infamous engine. If you ever get these, I recommend tearing the motor out, send it to Broadway, request a 5-pole motor in return so you can swap it in. And what I would do is junk the decoder and put a better decoder in it. After that, you got a really good running Streamline K4 for your RTR Pennsylvania Railroad. Okay, next up we have the Pennsylvania Atlantic Class E6. This locomotive is the only Atlantic Class RTR locomotive that you can buy today that is accurate to the railroad they're supposed to be in. This is a really nice locomotive. I heard they're pretty good. I haven't heard a lot of issues of them. Obviously, I've upgraded mine. Again, that's whatever you want to do. But it's a neat little locomotive to have in your layout pulling passenger trains. Alrighty. We can't talk about the Pennsylvania without talking about the K4S. This locomotive has been made by Broadway, MTH, Bachman, and I believe that's it. Interesting enough. Obviously, at some point, scale trains will make the K4 again, which I am keen to see what they will do with it, with that tooling and what they've added, and see if they're rather affordable, and I might buy a couple. But until then, you can still find them out there. However, Broadway is probably going to be the best in terms of having a die-cast body. But I would be careful with the Paragon 3 ones because I've never had one of those, and I would probably motor swap them as well. However, there are QSI and Paragon 2 versions out there, and you can probably find them. However, people try to do high prices with them. Don't buy them for over $300, please. They're not worth that much to be over that. Some people try to charge them for $500, especially Paragon 1. So just be careful for the Broadway ones out there. MTH, you can find them for lower prices. However, the problem with MTH is that, they have like a wireless coupler between the locomotive and tender. So watch out for that with any MTH locomotive, especially the ones I've mentioned on this list. Okay, up next we have the Pennsylvania Railroad T1. These have been made in almost every single one from Broadway, and they're pretty much only made by Broadway in the RTR market. I don't know if anybody else is going to ever make these. However, we might see in the future not TCS. Scale Trains might make one day, since there's going to be a brand new one made. And as you can see, this is the the modernized version, and then over here you see the as delivered version with the portholes on the side, which is really cool that Broadway did 2 of these. Okay, up next we have another big Pennsy steamer. This is a 210-4 J1A class steam locomotive. These were basically locomotives that were produced by the C&O as the T1s, but the Pennsylvania took these and took the design and built them at Pennsylvania. One of those rare locomotives where two types of locomotives are the same class and the same type, but are built by two different railroads. Alrighty, here's the other duplex type locomotive on this list. This is the Pennsylvania Railroad Q2. This is made by Broadway Limited Imports, and this is the Paragon 4 one coming up soon next year, early next year. They made them in Paragon 2, and they haven't been made for a very long time, and their prices started going up and up and up. But now, if you want to get a Paragon 2 version, they will be going a lot further down in price, especially below the Paragon 4 locomotives, since they don't share the same tooling exactly, but they're very similar. So hopefully spare parts will be made for the Q2 again, as well as a new Q2 by the Paragon 4 run with the new tooling. Alrighty, here's the other brass hybrid locomotive by Broadway. This is the Pennsylvania Railroad Turbine S2. This is the only turbine steam engine or steam turbine generation locomotive made in RTR. So only on the Pennsylvania Railroad this time, guys. No C&O yet. Here we have the Pennsylvania Railroad L1A 282 Mikado. Another one of the unique Mikado locomotives made by Broadway. And yeah, this is pretty much the sister locomotive to the K4, sharing the same firebox. Unfortunately, they were only made in Paragon 3 so far. I'd hope to see these engines again because they are really nice workhorses to add. Extra Mikados on your layout is a bonus, especially if you're a Pennsylvania Railroad modeler. And finally, we have the Broadway Limited Imports I1SA. Broadway is the only company that makes the I1SA, and they make them with the long tender as well as with the short tender locomotive variant. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Pennsylvania. They have a whole bunch, and I believe there will be more coming in the future from Broadway specifically. So yeah, guys, this is pretty much it. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video with the top 5 RTR railroads that you can do in the steam era. There are other locomotives out there that you can use for other railroads that are on those railroads. However, they're not as, I guess, diverse with the different classes that are specific for those railroads. Yes, you have Yaris RA locomotives and other, fantasy locomotives like the Broadway consolidation locomotive that they made that can be used for any other railroad. Personally, I frown upon it. If you like them, that's fine. It's just, it never existed. It's not real, unfortunately. So, yeah, next time I'm going to do a top 5 for steam era railroads that have brass engines involved, and I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a difference. Some things will not change, but there will be a difference. Anyways, this is Penchy Joe signing out.
Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Now here's to Daddy Claxton, may his name forever stand, and may he be remembered in the courts throughout the land. When his earthly race is over, let the curtains round him fall. We'll carry him home to victory on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland to the hill and by the shore. Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball.